What if I told you that the country once banned from having an army is now building one of the strongest militaries on Earth? Japan once promised it would never fight again after World War II. For many years, it lived as a peaceful nation surrounded by rising powers. But something changed in 2025. Japan started to move in a way that made the whole world watch closely. Its skies now carry stealth jets that can fly farther and faster than ever before. Its seas hide submarines that move in silence under deep water. Its islands guard missiles that can reach far across the Pacific. No one saw it coming. The country that once had no army is now a military powerhouse. Every base, every ship, every plane has a clear purpose: to protect Japan and its people. And this time, Japan is not waiting for help. It is ready to defend itself like never before. The world's superpowers are now asking the same question. How did Japan become this powerful so fast? Stay with me, because we're about to uncover the secret weapon behind Japan's rise. After World War II, Japan lost everything that made it a warrior nation. Its cities were in ruins, its people broken, and its military completely banned. The world forced Japan to lay down its sword. The new Article 9 Constitution made one clear promise: Japan would never fight again. No army, no navy, no air force. Only a small group called the Self-Defense Forces, meant to protect the homeland, nothing more. For 80 years, Japan lived under this rule while other nations built weapons and armies. America became stronger, China grew massive, Russia stayed armed to the teeth, and Japan stayed silent. It watched its neighbors test missiles and build nuclear weapons. It watched as warships circled its islands again and again. But silence does not mean weakness. Deep inside, Japan was watching, learning, and preparing. Every year, it studied how the world fought and how technology changed the battlefield. Every scientist, every engineer, every pilot dreamed of a day Japan could stand tall again. The country that once lost its sword was sharpening it in secret, because even the calmest seas can hide the strongest waves. And history has shown one thing again and again: a sleeping giant never stays asleep forever. But what happens when a sleeping giant gets poked too many times? For years, Japan tried to stay peaceful and quiet, but the world around it started to change fast. To the west, China began to move aggressively in the East China Sea. Its warships and fighter jets crossed Japanese waters more often each year. Chinese coast guards even entered disputed islands that Japan calls its own. They came closer, they came louder, and Japan was forced to watch in silence. Then came North Korea. It launched nuclear missiles that flew right over Japan's sky. Sirens went off. People ran to shelters. Children cried in schools. The sky that once felt safe now looked dangerous. And to the north, Russia joined the game. It began joint military drills near Japan's borders with China. The sky that once felt safe now looked dangerous. And to the north, Russia joined the game. It began joint military drills near Japan's borders with China. Warships circled. Bombers flew close. Submarines slipped under. Every direction now carried a threat. Japan was being surrounded. Its enemies were not hiding anymore. They were sending a message: Japan's peace would not protect it forever. Inside Japan, leaders grew tense. They knew diplomacy was no longer enough. The world was arming itself, and Japan could no longer stay defenseless. That's when Japan realized something terrifying. Being peaceful doesn't keep you safe when your neighbors aren't. For decades, Japan followed one unbreakable rule. It promised to spend no more than 1% of its GDP on the military. That rule became sacred, a symbol of peace after the war. Every leader respected it. Every budget stayed small, but the threats kept growing. China was building hundreds of new warships. North Korea was testing missiles again and again. Russia was flexing its power near Japan's borders. And Japan finally said, enough. In 2025, Japan broke its own rule for the first time in history. It approved a $55 billion defense budget, the largest ever in modern Japan. And that was just the beginning. By 2027, that number is expected to reach $70 billion. Japan will become the third biggest military spender in the entire world. The world couldn't believe it. The country once banned from having an army was now pouring billions into weapons, bases, and defense systems. Every yen was a message. Japan was done hiding. It was ready to stand on its own. But even with all that money, Japan's leaders knew the truth. Money alone doesn't make a nation powerful. To survive, Japan needed something far more important. Something no budget could buy: For years, Japan's military existed only to defend, never to attack. It was called the Self-Defense Forces, not an army. But that rule began to fade as danger came closer to Japan's shores. Leaders realized defense alone was no longer enough. In 2025, Japan changed everything. It created the Joint Operations Command, a new system that joins land, sea, and air forces together. For the first time, they could plan offensive missions, not just protection. The strategy was clear. Japan must be able to strike before being struck. Inside training bases, soldiers practiced with a new kind of discipline. It was the same samurai spirit that once shaped Japan's history. Honor, focus, duty. But now it mixed with modern technology and digital warfare. Commanders spoke of precision, not aggression. They taught soldiers that strength comes from control, not chaos. Drones, cyber tools, and satellite systems replaced old swords and bows. Japan was blending its ancient warrior code with modern science. The heart of the samurai was alive again, but this time in machines. Every soldier carried not just a weapon, but a purpose: to protect Japan's peace with power. The spirit was back, stronger than ever, but they still faced one final problem. They needed weapons that could reach their enemies before it was too late. The year 2025 marked a turning point for Japan's firepower. For the first time ever, Japan bought 400 US Tomahawk missiles. Each one could hit a target over 1,000 miles away. That meant Japan could strike any enemy base long before it was attacked. The deal shocked Asia. It meant Japan was no longer a nation that only defended. It could hit back hard, but Japan didn't stop there. Its own Type 12 surface-to-ship missiles were quietly being upgraded. Their range grew to almost 6 times longer than before. That turned Japan's coastlines into fortresses. Any warship entering its waters could be destroyed before getting close. The message was clear. Japan could now control the seas around it. But deep inside secret labs, something even more powerful was being tested. Hypersonic weapons. Missiles so fast that no system on Earth could stop them. They travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound. By the time they appear on radar, it's already too late. Even America's strongest defenses would struggle to react. These new weapons made Japan's rivals nervous, because suddenly Japan had the ability to strike anywhere, anytime. But Japan wasn't done yet. The next goal was even bigger. They were about to rule the skies too. Japan's rise didn't stop with missiles. It took the fight to the skies. Right now, 42 F-35A stealth fighters are already flying under Japan's flag. These are some of the most advanced jets in the world. They can see the enemy before being seen. They can strike targets hundreds of miles away and vanish before radar finds them. But Japan went one step further. It ordered F-35B jets, special versions that can take off and land almost anywhere, even on small islands or helicopter carriers. That gave Japan flexibility no other Asian nation had. Now its pilots can launch from the sea, strike fast, and return without needing long runways. Each aircraft became a moving fortress in the air. And this is just part of the story. Japan's total air power now includes over 1,500 aircraft ready for war. That number alone makes Japan's air self-defense force one of the largest in the world. The skies over Japan are now guarded day and night. Any threat that comes close is met with lightning speed. Every jet, every radar, every pilot works together like clockwork. Japan no longer fears invasion from above. It owns the sky. But wars are not only fought in the air. Control the skies is power. But what about the seas, where Japan's real history lies? For 80 years, Japan stayed away from one thing: aircraft carriers. Since 1945, the word itself felt forbidden. Carriers were the symbol of Japan's old war machine. They were the ships that once ruled the Pacific and brought both glory and tragedy. But now, in 2025, that history has returned. Japan has 2 aircraft carriers again, the Izumo and the Kaga. Once simple helicopter destroyers, they've now been rebuilt to launch fighter jets. When the first F-35B stealth jet touched down on the Izumo, it was more than just a landing. It was history repeating itself, but this time with a purpose of defense, not conquest. The scene was powerful. Sailors stood in silence as the jet's wheels hit the deck. It was a moment Japan had not seen since the days of World War II. For the first time in 8 decades, Japanese pilots were flying from Japanese carriers again. It was emotional, it was symbolic, and it sent a clear message to the world. Japan is back on the seas. Every takeoff, every landing carried the weight of the past and the promise of protection. Above and on the water, Japan had regained its power, but the most deadly threat was not above or on the surface. It was waiting beneath. While the world watched Japan's jets and carriers, another power was rising under the ocean. Japan had built something the world had never seen before, the world's first lithium-ion battery submarines. These were not normal submarines. They were called the Taigei class, meaning big whale. They could stay underwater for weeks without surfacing. No noise, no smoke, no sign of life, just silence and power. The lithium-ion batteries gave them faster speed, longer range, and stealth unmatched by any other navy. Even the United States and Russia took notice, because these submarines didn't need air to recharge like diesel ones. They could hide in the deep ocean, invisible to radar or sonar. And they weren't just hiding. They could launch cruise missiles straight from under the sea. That meant Japan could strike targets thousands of miles away without ever being seen. Each Taigei submarine carried the power to end a threat before it began. It was Japan's silent shield, and also its silent sword. Few people know this, but these same submarines inspired new designs in the US Navy. Even America learned from Japan's new stealth technology. The deep sea now belonged to Japan's engineers. They had mastered the art of silent death below. But Japan also knew one thing clearly: they couldn't do this alone. Japan knew that real power comes from strong allies, not from standing alone. It turned to the United States, Australia, and India for support. Together, they built a new partnership to protect the Indo-Pacific region. It was called the Quad Alliance. 4 nations with one clear goal: to keep the seas safe and stop aggression. They began joint military exercises across the Pacific Ocean. American aircraft carriers trained beside Japanese destroyers. Australian frigates practiced with Japanese submarines. Indian pilots flew alongside Japan's newest F-35 fighters. Each drill made the alliance stronger and smarter. Every mission built more trust and coordination. The US shared its military intelligence and defense systems. Japan shared its technology and engineering skill. They learned how to move and strike as one team. Enemies watching from afar began to worry. Japan was no longer acting alone. It was leading. This alliance became a real military network that could react in seconds. Every part of it, air, sea, and cyber, worked together. The Quad gave Japan more reach, more strength, and more respect on the world stage. Japan had turned its old allies into a shared shield, and that shield was now ready for any war. By 2025, the world was about to see something no one expected. By 2025, Japan had completed its quiet rise to power. It was officially ranked the 8th most powerful military in the world. That number alone shocked many nations. The country once banned from having an army now stood among the global giants. It had over 247,000 active personnel ready for action. That number alone shocked many nations. The country once banned from having an army now stood among the global giants. It had over 247,000 active personnel ready for action. Every soldier, pilot, and sailor trained with modern technology and joint operations. Japan had turned discipline into a weapon of precision. Its bases stretched from Okinawa to Hokkaido, ready to defend every inch of the homeland. Its ships patrolled the seas day and night. Its jets guarded the sky with unmatched speed. But numbers and machines weren't the real story. The real secret behind Japan's rise was something deeper. It wasn't about power alone. It was about preparation, focus, and fearless unity. Every step, every law, every upgrade was made with one purpose: never be helpless again. Japan's strength was not built on war, but on the promise to survive. The world had finally seen what Japan had become: a peaceful nation with unstoppable strength. But there's one secret about Japan's military that will blow your mind. Here's the secret. Japan didn't just build a military, it built a military that its enemies helped create. Every threat from China made Japan stronger. Every missile from North Korea made Japan faster. Every move from Russia made Japan smarter. Each danger shaped Japan into exactly what those countries feared most: a fully armed, technologically advanced, and highly prepared power right on their doorstep. The country that was once forced into peace became peaceful by preparing for war. And the sleeping giant didn't just wake up, it became stronger than it ever was before. Japan's story proves that real strength often comes from restraint. But sometimes restraint is no longer an option. What began as a promise of peace became a mission to survive. And in 2025, Japan showed the world what preparation and discipline can do. Now the question is yours. Do you think Japan's military rise is a force for peace or a warning of war? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shocked you, make sure to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more military secrets the world doesn't want you to know.